So as you can see, I've started chopping up the oyster mushroom. I brought it into the kitchen, gave it a quick rinse underwater. I know that some people like to soak theirs in salt water to get all the bugs out. Some like to just soak it in fresh water for a while. I think that just giving it a quick rinse, you should be able to see most of the bugs that are there, get them out. The big long gills really make it easy to look in between there and make sure you don't have any living creatures that are going to be part of your dinner. Whatever you want to do, that's up to you. I find that if you soak them for too long, that it turns kind of mushy, and I'm trying to avoid that type of texture. So as you can see, when we chop them up, I just cut across a couple of the gills, and they really have a nice flaky texture, sort of like fish. As far as flavor, it's really mild. It's earthy, which you're going to hear every mushroom be described as. However, it takes on the flavor of whatever dish you are serving up. And so I'm doing a Hungarian mushroom soup, and so it's going to take on a lot of the paprika, the dill, and some of the other spices that are in there. Before I add it to the soup, though, I'm going to go ahead and fry it up because no wild edible mushroom should be eaten raw. Usually you get some gastrointestinal problems when you do that. So I'm going to fry it up real quick and make sure that it's nice and crispy, bring out some of the flavor, draw out some of the water so it's not quite as mushy, and then I'll add it to my stock pot full of soup. I usually layer it in a little bit of butter in a pan, and I fry it for about 3 minutes per side, and then add some seasoning, maybe some salt and pepper, and you can eat it like that. Maybe put it on a steak, or do what I'm going to do and add it into your soup. We'll show you the next part here in a minute. So as you can see, I've chopped up the rest of that oyster mushroom, and I am starting the frying process. We don't want to crowd our pan too much. That looks like a lot of butter, but I promise you most of that is the water that's being driven off. They've been cooking for close to 3 minutes now. We want to make sure that we're stirring them up, flipping them over, making sure that both sides are being cooked nice and evenly. Like I said, about 3 minutes, just enough to make them tender and get them browning. As you can see happening on some of those pieces. So many people wonder if they don't have the opportunity to use the mushrooms that they're harvesting, what do they do with them? And it's best to use them fresh, and I like to only harvest what I'm going to be using that day or in the next day or so. That way it doesn't go bad. However, you can dehydrate mushrooms and crush them into powder and use them as part of your broths. These mushrooms, do they look familiar? Well, if you said morels, you're right. These are morel mushrooms that are about a year old. Found them in the back of our freezer, of all places. And if you freeze mushrooms, and it doesn't matter if they're wild edibles or the store-bought variety, they are not going to have the same texture as when they're fresh. Knowing this, we usually use them for soups and stews to add flavor and just kind of reminisce about when we went out and found these. So I found these, like I said, in the back of the freezer. I tossed them in the pan. I'm going to go ahead and fry them up a little bit, and then we'll add them to our stock. And as you can see, this is really starting to turn into a really nice broth-based soup. And so I'm going to cheat a little bit, probably put a little bit of chicken in here as well to round it out. We're going to let it simmer for about an hour, and if you're interested, we'll try and put the recipe down into the description. It's starting to turn really yummy, and the kitchen smells divine.